Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Locked On Seminoles, your favorite daily Florida State sports talk show with your favorite daily Florida State talk show hosts, Drake, Dave, and myself. Today's show is brought to you by betonline.ag or .net, depending on if you want extra information or you just want to put some money down. The Masters are this week, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of the show. So it is a great weekend to check out betonline.net. We're also going to talk about what we haven't been talking about enough. That's right. Today is going to be which players on offense and then which players on defense and then who in the coaching staff have we not talked about enough this spring. It's going to be a great show for y'all. I'm excited. Drake's excited. Dave's excited. You guys know Holly and Stacey are excited. Roll that video. Let's dive in.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, folks, welcome to Locked On Seminoles, your favorite daily Florida State sports talk show. We love being here, and we are only here because of the support y'all give us. We just hit 900 subscribers on YouTube. We are on our march to 1,000. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to turn on notifications in case we decide to throw you a curveball, do a little surprise live action or whatever it may be. And make sure you like the individual video and feel free to comment if you want to be featured on our next Mailbag Monday. So let's just go ahead and start this thing flowing. Do we want to start? Let's start with defense. We've talked about offense a lot this week. Dave, this was your idea. Well, it was kind of a multi-pronged idea, but you gave it the structure. Who do you think of when you think of the defender that we have not talked about enough this spring?
Don't say Travis J.
It's Travis J.
I mean, it's not Travis J, right?
You are included in the we in this. So if you've talked about him ad nauseum, you can't talk about him on this segment.
That makes it harder for me, though. And
why? Because you can't pick Travis J?
I'll tell you we're not talking about enough. Malcom Ray. Malcom Ray is a damn good player who we are lucky to have as a backup on the defensive line. Because, Drake, a couple weeks ago, we went through the exercise of, the defensive end depth was if there's some injuries at the defensive end position, who the hell is going to step up there? At least on the interior D-line, we know the starters are good. We know Fabian Lovett. We know Jarett Cooper. But to have a third option like Malcom Ray back there, who absolutely is big enough to just eat offensive linemen, which something that we have a long-standing tradition of interior D linemen at FSU who are elite. And we were scared this last off season and the year before, are we recruiting enough talent to keep up the interior defensive line play? Malcom Ray is in the mix of talented interior defensive linemen that I expect to see a lot more snaps than people are probably expecting.
What about you, Drake? Who comes to mind when you think of players we have not talked about enough this spring, I suppose, or really any time? I don't know. And don't say Michael Euro, famed walk-on from the 2014 season.
Shout out to Euro. I know he listens to the podcast every day. Love you, bro. Congratulations on your anniversary with your girlfriend. To me, actually, Malcom Ray was probably on my list. So, Dave, good job on taking that one. I think it's a really good pick. I'm going to go with Kevin Knowles. And that's someone that we actually haven't discussed really that much actually on this podcast, or you don't hear them much on any other podcast, really. Primarily because, he had started off, pretty well. Then he had that, I think there's 2-3 game stretch where he struggled a little bit. But he's ended the season on a high note, and now with the departure of Darvis Brownlee, I think you'll see him somewhat be more of the consistent starter alongside a Duke Cooper and alongside a potentially one of Dave's picks for a potential breakout in Demore Tate and Travis J. So to me, Kevin Knowles is someone that you're going to definitely see slotted in that nickel back spot.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think those are really solid ones. I'm trying to pull up some stats, and I'm not great with the stats, but I think I've got two. One that you just mentioned, and that's Omarion Duke Cooper. Not that he's not being given enough praise, because if you ask about him, people say, "Yeah, he's great. He's one of our best players last year." But I feel like people aren't really talking much about him. It's we're so into McCall and Azarie Thomas, and we're into like, oh, is Renardo Green coming back going to do something? And those are all things we should be talking about. But let's not forget, as a true freshman, Omarion Cooper was a dog last year, and he is great in coverage, and he really should be an anchor in our defensive backfield. I also want to go where Dave went, and I want to talk about my man, Jarett Jackson. He is a monster. He's a big, like, just massive dude at 6'6", 300 pounds. And he actually had a defensive rating last year of a 71, which is a green on Pro Football Focus, which says, you know, he's a capable backup. He took 200 snaps last year. Isn't that nuts that we're now at a point where we've got guys who took 200 snaps last year and we don't even really talk about them because we've got so much depth at that position? I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's funny now that you mentioned that, and I feel like I've talked enough about Dennis Briggs, but enough can't be said about him either because he was our best pass rusher last year, and that includes Jermaine Johnson. People forget that.
People do forget that he was probably the best player on that entire defensive line. I didn't bring up Omarion Cooper because I think Max, when it's mainly me and Dave, I think I've brought him up 1,000 times, but you know, you're right. Like, you don't hear much about him actually from other outlets or overall from spring, mainly because if a defensive back is doing their job, you don't really hear their name called that much because typically speaking,
right,
they're not getting burned in practice, which that's a really, really good sign. And Jarett Jackson, I like that a lot, actually. He was someone that I think Taggart picked up in his last year from Louisville, the transfer coming in. And like a lot of people were saying that he wasn't, I guess, committed to the game of football. And if you watch the game tape from last year and also you hear from spring practices, he when he's locked in, he's locked in. And like he's proved people wrong. And that's definitely a solid pick right there.
Yeah, and he's just a behemoth. I mean, I'm just double checking the stats. He has 6'6", 297. And you look at his stats from last year, right? 16 tackles. He's an interior defensive lineman. Like, we don't necessarily expect interior defensive linemen to jump off the stat sheet. What I look at is how many snaps did they play, because that tells me what one of the best assistant coaches in all of college football, Odell Higgins, thinks about the kid, and he put him in there 200 times. So, yeah, I'm excited to see. Maybe he'll do something this year, and we'll get to see at the spring game. But I want to move on and talk about the offense. Before I do that, though, folks, I got to tell you about Athletic Greens. They help make all this happen. And I don't mean just by paying the bills. I mean, they make all this happen. You see this skin? I'm a 30-year-old with the skin of a 29 and 28-year-old, maybe you could even say. And that's because I do Athletic Greens every morning. I don't like green juice. I don't like vegetables, but Athletic Greens does it right. It's delicious. It's nutritious. That's right. That's a catchphrase here at Locked On Seminoles, and you will like it too. So go to athleticgreens.com and get hooked up with their starter pack, or dive right in and get their non-starter pack. I don't know what they call it. athleticgreens.com. So I know we started with Dave last time, but I know that Dave is also chomping at the bit for this topic because, let's be honest, Dave doesn't get to talk a lot in his personal life. It's tough when your girlfriend gives you talking tokens, and when you've spent them all, you just have to be quiet until payday. Okay. So, Dave, who is your offensive player that we have not talked about enough on this show?
Well, I don't know that any of the three of us have mentioned this name in the year 2022. We have a tight end who's taken over 1,000 snaps in the last 2 years and 500 snaps each of the last 2 years. Cam McDonald is not a bad player, man. Like, his
you're about to say Preston Daniel. I was like, please tell me Preston Daniel hasn't played 1,000 snaps.
I thought he was a Wyatt Rector, honestly.
No, absolutely not. Cam McDonald, sneaky, is a great pass blocker. And if we want Jordan Travis to become a good passer, it starts up front, because if he's running for his life, he ain't going to be a good thrower. I don't care what development he does. Cam McDonald is super valuable as a sixth offensive lineman. And he's honestly not a bad pass. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and stand and say he's a good pass catcher.
He had our second most touchdowns as a pass catcher last year.
And his catch rate has gone up each year he's been here, each of the 3 years. So he's getting better. He's not dropping the ball as much. He seems to get open. Like, if you just watch him on the field, like, it seems like he's open enough. He just doesn't get the ball enough. Like, he doesn't get enough credit. He's a good tight end. He's one of the better tight ends we've had since Nick O'Leary.
Yeah, I think there's two problems with Cam McDonald, right? Is one, I'm not saying everything you're saying is wrong, because it's not, but I don't know if he's developed much. He's kind of just the same dude he's been. And if you look, and I mentioned this in a comment in response to someone today, I don't think that's a coaching issue like with the wide receiver room, because as much as we joke about him, Preston Daniel and Wyatt Rector have developed substantially from what they were. So I'd like to see Cam kind of take that next step. I also think he's like such a tweener, right? Like, does he want to be a Pitts or is he going to be a Nick O'Leary? And it's like he's too lean to be a Nick O'Leary, but he's like not quite good enough at receiving to be a Pitts. So I don't think you're wrong. I that's why I struggle with him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, at least we have an option at tight end that doesn't drop the ball a lot, and that's a good pass blocker. Like, what more can we ask for than that when we've had a bad offensive line?
Yeah, but I say, like, to me, Cam McDonald's more, I keep them in there for run blocking and pass blocking. I really don't think he is definitely a weapon out there, like on the outside as an option, but I just don't see him as much of a threat. And quite honestly, I mean, he led the team in touchdowns with 2. So to me,
second on the team.
Second on the team with 2. So to me, I don't know. I'm just not as big of a fan of him as most people are.
Yeah, but to Dave's point, I mean, maybe we should talk about it more, right? Because if we don't have a good tight end, we are in trouble. So yeah, I mean, I think he deserves some praise. I do. I just think that, yeah, I think there's work that needs to be done at the position. I'll leave it up at that. Drake, you got somebody for us? Who's your under discussed offensive player of 2022 so far?
Probably my under discussed offensive player of 2022 is the kid that I mentioned yesterday, I think for the first time on this podcast, and that's the preferred walk-on running back, CJ Campbell. Primarily because I know, Dave, you gave me that reaction, but like I said before, I'll say it again, like Mike Norvell does have a gift when he's finding and evaluating running backs. You look at Memphis with Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, and Darrell Henderson too as well. So CJ Campbell, I mean, Trayshawn Moore was also a PWO, and CJ Campbell had Max yesterday, he had 2,500 total rushing yards last year, in his last high school year.
Only played 8 games.
Yeah, and to me, that's someone that probably would supplant Lawrence Toafili, actually as the tailback number 1, primarily because I don't have enough faith in Toafili to have the size and be, fully healthy for an entire season. So to me, if you had to tell me to pick one, I'd probably go CJ Campbell.
Can we take a second here? Hold on. If you're a Georgia or a Bama or a Clemson fan and you hear that clip right there, bless your heart is all you can say, right? Like, oh man, they are down bad. Like,
I also
we're down bad.
We are, but also I
mean,
don't really give a about any of those teams either, though. So,
but the point is,
I know
that's what we're doing now.
I know what your point is, Dave. But if we're being honest here, like we've scrutinized the offense so much, literally since the end of the season. You're telling me to pick a specific player we haven't talked about. Trayshawn Ward. We've talked enough about Trayshawn Ward. We haven't talked about CJ Campbell. So you're telling me to pick one player that we haven't discussed ad nauseum on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to pick the one that I literally have left till the very last day to talk about.
Do you guys get this ominous feeling we're going to just suck this year?
Yeah, I really do. And
I do too.
I'm about to say, like, I've had that feeling since the end of last year.
Yeah, we're going to suck bad.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. And I think the problem is we've sat here and assumed like, oh, we'll just get better because like that's what happens. It's like, yeah, that's what they said about the housing market in 2008.
That's what Jags fans say every single year.
November.
Literally the entire NFL draft process is like, hey, you draft earlier to get better. Why are you still here 20 years later?
Well, that's
the Jets.
That's the issue, right? And I think that a lot of it, gets penned around like, various players or whatever. And I think for me, the issue is just like the average doesn't seem to be increasing at enough of a rate for us to get substantially better. Like you look at who we have on this team and who we've talked about or not talked about, and we have a lot of players who are better than the players we had last year at the starting positions. But you start to go down one level and it's like, you look at offensive line, and I'm going to go ahead and yell at me in the comments here, but if 3 linemen get hurt, we're like, I mean, not, and I don't mean kind of, I mean,
let's be fair. 3 linemen is a lot of linemen to get hurt.
Oh, dude, at least I'll try to pull the stats, but I would imagine at least 3 linemen get hurt per team per year. I'm not saying for the rest of the season, but if they miss one game, that's a guaranteed loss. I would argue you only need to lose 2 starting linemen to have it probably be a loss against any team on the schedule, Duquesne included. You lose 3 of the current starters, even throughout the game. If they don't all play 90% of the snaps as the starting 5, right? If you have 3 starters miss more than 10% of their snaps, you're probably going to lose to any team on this schedule. So I think that's kind of
games last year.
Right. And so that's the next step is like, can the backups, can the 2 deep, the 3 deep start to accelerate? Because you look at Alabama, and I know we're not Alabama, but it wasn't so long ago where we're 1 pass interference call away, egregious call missed, from going into the locker room at halftime, winning that football game. And maybe Frenchie doesn't get hurt because we're not playing from behind. And Dave, yeah, I know you're racking your brain. Remember the one where we have Auden Tate up like this and they've got their arms extended into his chest. The referee's looking at him going, that's good defense in NFL blitz. Yeah. Keeps the flag on his hip.
Here's why I'm racking my brain. And I know we got to go to break. Answer this question. Don't elaborate. Place 2013 Jameis Winston on this exact team. What's our record this year?
8-4.
9-3.
Okay.
I think this team with Jameis Winston is Pitt last year. It's like Kenny Pickett on Pitt. Not saying Kenny's as good as Jameis, but I think that their players around him were better than our players around Jameis. So I think it's a very similar team. Maybe he gets you to 10 if the schedule breaks correctly.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great question. My player, by the way, we hadn't talked about was Alex Mastromano. As a freshman, he pinned, as a freshman, he knocked 20% of his punts.
That's not offense.
Well, yeah, but okay, you're right. But whatever. We don't have a special team segment. So he knocked 20% of his punts, of 34 total punts within the 20. Last year, he punted 61 times and knocked 37% of those in the 20. So we talk about Florida State, and this is how it relates to offense, struggling with getting first downs, right? Struggling with field position on first and second, leading to long third downs. If Mastromano can take another step forward and get even more accurate and really start being a field flipper, that could really help the offense have a lot of pressure alleviated from them this year. And I think could be really important to the game. And yeah, I don't think we talk about special teams enough because it's also like, what do you talk about with them? But anyway, yeah. So I was going to say with Bama, though, think back to that Georgia game, right? When they played Georgia the first time in the national championship, their left tackle, I forget who it was now, went down like 3 minutes in. They put a true freshman out there and they gave up 2 sacks all game. And it's like, when are we going to get that? Like, when are we going to have that? Like, we're starting to see it on the defensive line, but we need it at every position. And right now we just don't have it. But Locked On Seminoles will be here. Yeah. Well, I would argue defensive line, we have it right now. I think the whole defensive starting line in a 3-4, but almost even in a 4-3 could miss a game and you would still be competitive in that game. I don't think it's like a guaranteed loss if you have to go to your second string in that with that position group.
I can agree with that. I think I'm a lot higher in the defensive line than most people here. Like, I know Dave is like very like, oh, after basically Briggs and Fuller, like who else do we have? And I'm like, no, you still got Verse. I think McClellan's coming on too. You're going to see a lot from, Farmer and everybody else. But hey, I mean, I have faith in them. And also, to your previous point, yeah, punters are people too. I guess that's right.
Punters are people too. I mean, by the rule. Although there's no rule that says a dog can't play football, apparently. So you got to watch out for that technicality if you see a golden retriever suiting up. Anyway, folks, like I said, the show is brought to you by Bet Online. It is a great place to get action. They've got literally anything you want. So you can throw some money on the Masters and you can work out your nerves about what's happening in the Masters at their casino or on horses in countries that are so many time zones ahead of us. They're always running horses. The beauty of horses is there's literally always a horse race going on. Anywhere, anytime, anywhere, somewhere else in the world has a horse race going on. And BetOnline has the odds. So go to betonline.net. Make an account, use promo code Locked On, and get yourself a welcome bonus. You will be happy you did it. So do it now. Thank me later. All right. So Drake has requested the microphone. I don't need to hand him mine because he has his own. But Drake, you would like to run our golf segment. So take it away. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah. So one of the things, folks, as you know, it is the off season, and one of the things we want to implement a lot more is we learn a lot more personal stuff about our guests. Okay. Now, with this week, being the Masters, I'm like, hey, I don't want to be on here because all y'all know I hate golf. However, I want to compromise, with my co-host here. So I want to ask each one of you now that you know how there's a Masters dinner every year, right?
Yep.
Did you see Hideki Matsuyama's menu?
Yep.
I did.
For those of you who don't
I like
know,
this is good.
it's not the personal thing, but Max is a sushi connoisseur. Dave
Yes.
also is. He's gotten me over to the volcano roll life, and Dave, thank you so much for that. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. I do love it.
Good call.
I wanted to ask each of you, Max, I'll start with you. Dave, you go next. What would be your 5-course, dinner menu at the Masters?
So I'm admittedly going to have to Google something because I'm not sophisticated enough to know what a 5-course meal entails.
Oh, I have it
don't,
right. You would have an appetizer.
Okay.
You would have some sort of fish, a meat, and then
So we do a fish and a meat.
You do a fish and a meat, unless you are Bubba Watson, who does mac and cheese with Caesar salad.
No. I'm
grilled
from the
chicken.
Panhandle.
He does
of Florida,
everything a little weird.
But dear
He does.
God, I mean that was like the most Milton, Florida thing. Bubba also says he's never had a golf coach. Which, can I just say something about Bubba Watson?
I believe.
I don't hate the guy, but I don't believe that for a second. I believe a lot of coaches have quit because he's a nightmare to deal with, but I don't believe for a second he made it to the PGA Tour without a coach. That's just like, I'm sorry, but you can't get to that level. He hits the ball a country mile, but look at Kyle Berkshire, right? Like you can only hit it far for so long. You need a coach out there teaching you putting and short game. Anyway, moving on. All right, so I've got a mock menu up here. So for my appetizers, assorted sushi, sashimi, and nigiri, yes, that's going on there. But most importantly, it would be very salmon heavy, very scallop heavy. I really like scallops as a nigiri dish. Big fan of the scallops. And then if you don't eat sushi, I guess I've got to have a second one in there because some people don't eat fish. I guess chicken nuggets because you're a child. So sorry, there's allergies out there. So if you have allergies, I'll get you something. I think I would go with this is a tough one. Oh, you know what one of my favorite things is when they make like a really good veggie, like it's all vegetable salsa, and then they take the chips and they just put a little on each chip, it's like that kind of appetizer. Do that, some spicy sour cream over it. So we've got the guac and the salsa and then a little spicy sour cream over the top. For my fish, I guess we're having fish twice here. Although, weird fact, I love sushi. I don't like cooked fish. So I would go with, I think I'd go freshwater. I'm going back to the freshwater. I think I would go with like a good river bass, maybe like something inland, something kind of, well cooked, put it over nope, seafood paella. Going with seafood paella for a cooked fish. Then I'm going with steak. I'm not going with Wagyu though. I think Wagyu has gotten a little overrated, a little big for its britches. Everyone, you hear the name Wagyu now, you add a zero to the price. It's like, it's gotten a little extreme. I want steak in the skillet. All right. I want New York strips. I want like 16-ounce New York strips, but cooked in skillets. That way all the juices get in there with the garlic, butter, and what is it, rosemary or thyme? I forget which one I use. It's in my fridge. I have to look every time.
Okay, Gordon Ramsay.
But no, I want a really well skillet prepared, and I want that with just some good old fashioned, because we are in Augusta, Georgia, mashed potatoes and a side of cornbread. So steak, mashed potatoes, side of cornbread, and then for dessert, we're just gonna have vanilla ice cream. I want some vanilla ice cream from the Penn State Creamery, folks. If you don't know, Penn State was a pioneer in food science. In fact, Ben and Jerry of Ben and Jerry's learned how to make ice cream at Penn State. They have a dairy food science department. They have the cows. They milk the cows. It becomes ice cream, cow to ice cream in like 8 minutes. It's mind-blowing stuff. It's the best ice cream on the planet. So I would have an assortment of Penn State Creamery ice cream.
Okay, Dave, now that you've had about 10 minutes to concoct your menu.
I feel like Jesus.
Yeah, I'll save you some time. So number one, when you
Chicken
think
nuggets,
appetizer,
and then we're gonna have mac and cheese.
when
But
you
make sure we
think
have ketchup
when you
for
think
it.
when you think appetizer, you go mozzarella stick 100 times out of 100. There's no questions here. Yeah, you're going mozzarella.
You just
stick.
won the
Don't even-
Masters, and you're gonna serve a room full
Yes,
of
yes,
grown
I'm
adults
serving
mozzarella
with
sticks.
good mozzarella.
Are you gonna have the
good.
placemats with the planets on them so
Oh,
that way
it's
everyone
my
can
dinner.
learn too?
This is my dinner.
Let him have it.
Okay, my dinner. The
Go ahead,
mozzarella sticks. Number
mozzarella
one.
sticks. Sure.
Yes, if you don't like it, you don't get to eat the appetizer.
You gotta have
For
two
the
appetizers. I actually don't try to have two. Just it's fine. We'll have chicken nuggets or something. Proceed.
Yeah, that's not an appetizer. That's disgusting. That's a full entree, and everybody knows that. Right? Okay. So for seafood, I don't know. I had a good salmon burrito once. That was pretty good, but I don't think
What?
Oh yeah, sushi burritos. Have you ever had a sushi burrito? Those are so good.
I don't like the consistency. Fine, sushi burritos. Okay,
Yes,
cool.
sushi burritos. They're so good. You just shove a bunch of sushi shit in there, and you can really cover up a lot of flaws with the sushi burrito.
Shit also referred to as fish.
Yeah. So do that. But no, sushi burritos, very good. If you never have one, they make one at Whole Foods. It's okay. It's way overpriced. It's not worth it. You got to get a good one.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So for the meat, Max, you were on the right track, but you're dead wrong. You don't want a New York strip. You want a nice dry aged ribeye. You want a ribeye here.
Yeah, if you're going to the skillet, that level of marbling, that's a good call. A lot more fat to kind of keep the taste in there. And I, by the way, would say that my steak has to be the last one cooked in a skillet, so all the rest of the flavors in there.
Also, if you cook it any more than rare, medium rare, you are defiling it. And super hot take here, filet mignon is a trash cut of meat. Yeah, I said that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
It's
Not
okay.
good.
Okay,
It's
can we go
decent.
back to what you
Not
just said though for a second? I don't know if it's my dinner and I won the Masters, like I had to win it. I'm not giving you the option. It's like, do you want I'm gonna have it be rare, and if you want, maybe you know what? Maybe I'll send people around with blowtorches. So if you need a little bit more, we'll be lenient. But I'm not.
Pittsburgh.
If someone's like, "Oh, can I get a well done steak?" I'd be like, "You can well done the out of this dinner."
Mm-hmm. That's right. Okay, last but not least, for dessert, sticky toffee pudding. If you've never had it, go to Atlanta and go to a nice restaurant. There are several places that had it. I think King and Duke has a really good one. Max, you should know this. You should go there. Sticky toffee pudding is super underrated. Guarantee you've never had it, right, Drake? You never had that? Max, you
Nope.
never had that?
No idea what you're talking about, bud.
Four of you have had it, and you all love it. Just the rest of you go try it. Thank you later. You're
There's
welcome.
3 of us here, by the way.
It's not going to the audience,
And
man.
I'm saying
called-
on the
called-
audience.
Oh, okay.
It's called an engagement.
Breaking the fourth wall. Well, folks, yeah, Drake, that was a solid one. Didn't you have another one? So first I want to say, though, by the way, Brooks Koepka is the, I think, 20th ranked golfer, 23rd ranked golfer
19th.
headed into this. 19th ranked in the world, and he's got like the 10th best odds. Brooks is big time Brooks for a reason. Let me ask it this way. Is there anything, Dave, that you causes concern or a reason you don't expect him to be pushing on the 4th day?
Yeah, I just ever since he has come back from his injuries, he just has not put it all together in a round where he's dominated like he had been prior to that. It's not like it would be a Tiger Woods thing where if he won, it would just be the most shocking thing ever. It wouldn't be surprising at all if Brooks won. He just hasn't put it together yet like he had been playing prior to the injuries. That's the only reason I don't expect him to win it. But his game's all there. I mean, look at his last several finishes. Didn't he finish 7th, tied for 2nd, and tied for 11th? Like, those are 3 strong finishes in his last 3 Masters. He absolutely should be up there competing. I just don't know if he can string it all together for 4 rounds.
My thing is with Brooks, though, and I genuinely mean this. Like, I know it's such a talking point, but it's legitimate. When he's playing well, I almost start to get I get less confident about his chance in a major because he's just that guy that he knows how to step up at majors. Although there's still this thing circulating, why is Brooks better at majors? He's told you why. In an obscure interview that very few of you probably saw, he said directly one time that he practices for majors and he just doesn't practice any other time. He just doesn't see the point in getting to the course 2 days early. It's not worth his time, so he doesn't do it. And I think that's why people like Brooks Koepka. So he's going to practice. He's out there. Dave, real quick, give your prediction now as the people are listening to this. Also, Drake, I think we should drop at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. because, Masters are keying off at 6:37. So I'd like to check that out. But anyway, you think Tiger does it? You think he decides game time decision?
There's no way. Max, I remember sitting on your couch when he won the what was it that we were watching? Wasn't the U.S. Open? It was
the last major. Oh gosh, we should.
The last major he won, and it was stunning that he had won that one. This one would be.
It wasn't the last major he won was the Masters.
Yeah, it was the Masters.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was the Masters. That was stunning. This would be one of the most surprising championships in the history of sport. Literally, like this would be. It's hard to call him a 16 seed, but after the injury he just had, where they weren't sure if he was going to walk or live, like this is his first tournament back. You don't just jump into the Masters and win it.
You do, if
Right?
Tiger Woods, though. He's already won the Masters with a broken leg, hasn't he? Or was that a U.S. Open? Which major did he win with a snapped in half femur? Because he's literally done it before. So this time his leg's repaired. I would not be shocked at all if he plays tomorrow. To me, his back is more of a concern than his leg. I mean, it's Tiger Woods, man. There is no time that Tiger Woods won't be competitive.
Dustin Johnson's going to win.
I don't know. We'll see, man. Who?
Dustin Johnson.
Ooh, that's a hot pick. It's not going to be. It's not going to be Scotty Scheffler. It's not going to be him.
And it won't be John Rahm. Thank Christ. Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably won't be John Rahm either. Although, dude, I bet I'll tell you what, I love Spanish food. So if he were to win,
awesome too.
Yeah, if he were to win, that would be a pretty strong menu because Spanish food is my second favorite, up there with behind Japanese food, and behind that is like Mexican Tex-Mex. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see his menu, but I don't think Rahm gets himself a jacket this year. I think it's too much. We've kind of seen since his kid was born, and he started to come down a bit from world number 1 down to world number 2 or 3. But he's not riding the same high that he was, and maybe he is. I don't know. What am I talking about? Folks, watch the Masters, enjoy it, and let me know if I'm right or wrong. We have been rolling at this for several minutes now. This is your favorite daily Florida State sports talk show with Drake, myself, Dave, and together we are Locked On Seminoles.
Smells like Seam Spirit, folks. Happy opening day, everybody.
And a happy opening day to you too, Drake, although I'm sure it'll be a disappointing season for the Marlins, as it has been for the last.
It's my birthday. Can you at least be nice and let me enjoy?
Not your birthday while we're recording this. I'll be nice tomorrow.
Hey, wait.
I'm not going to be on tomorrow.
He hasn't been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs yet.